Hey, this is Misery Loves Company, a social reading series hosted by miserytourism.com. Every Friday, we welcome outsider and transgressive writers to come and share their work with us. And it's Friday again, so let's get going here. In fact, it's not only Friday again, but it's the first Friday of 2024. And I'm sure this year will be profoundly different than 2023 and not just a completely tired and demoralizing rehash of that year. Okay, so first up tonight is John, fresh from Dime Square. John Padula. How are you doing, John?
Hey guys. So it's the new year. I've been in New York for some time and I feel like I've kind of grown as an artist and I wanted to write a piece that kind of reflected that. So there's a little preface to this piece. I just wanted to give my, appreciations and dedications to everything I've learned so far. Let's get into it. Before we begin, this one is called A Mild Conversation Between Roommates. Before we begin our reading of this piece, A Mild Conversation Between Roommates, I would just like to lay bare for the audience to see the headspace I was in when I created this work. Coming from humble beginnings, a farmer's son, with barely a high school's education under my belt, I found myself lost within the artistic mecca of the world, New York City. This change from small hick town to the center of the artistic universe has rocked me to my core. I found myself overwhelmed by the scores of wonderful artists I've seen, nearly blinded by their sparkling brilliance. Having lived here for some time, I feel I owe a creative debt to the great minds of the New York City art world. Something that could truly be appreciated by the cunning minds and tender hearts present within this city. I set aside all my previous efforts and decided to strive for something that wouldn't just engage the mind, but really stir the soul. This was a challenge for me. It took a lot out of me, physically, mentally, and mental physically. But I do believe this is my finest work. I feel I've created a piece of great importance, worthy of the hungry minds of the New York City artist, something elevated that they can truly connect with at their level. The story is far more restrained, subtle, and cerebral than my earlier work, but at the same time, it overflows with passion, love, and sometimes even wonder. What I've done is attempt to capture the very human soul within words, the very ethos of love. As a result, I present something that takes the minuscule under a microscope, something that buzzes with life, word to word. I ask that you stick with me through this piece. It may be a bit of a challenge at first. It's slow, methodical, and maybe even controversial, but every word holds a heavy power within it. Once immersed within the world of this piece, I trust that the truth weaved within every word will shake you to your very core. I would like to thank you all, everyone in the audience, and all the bright. This is not for you. This is for Dime Square, as I refer to you, just so you know. I don't owe you people anything. Um, I would like to thank you all, everyone in the audience, and all the bright minds and beautiful souls in the New York City art scene. From the moment I've gotten here, I've experienced nothing but the most gorgeous outpouring of kindness I've ever seen. This is the most vibrant community I've ever been a part of, and I value the fact that every person in New York City is a giant genius with absolutely great taste, massive talent, and steadfast art values. You people make art that is worth experiencing. I am so amazed by how open this community is, how accepting you all are, how you don't value people based on money or influence or clout, but instead actually care about the art being produced by your peers. It's as refreshing as it is beautiful. You're all beautiful, and you'll all live forever because I value the artists of New York City. You're each the greatest genius in the world, and your work is absolutely worthwhile. People the world over, and especially the people immediately in this art scene, love you because you're genuinely talented and not because your parents are obscenely rich. And I promise that all these people all over the world will not only remember, but will truly care about the work you've created. And they will care about it for years, if not decades, I'm sure. God bless all you brilliant geniuses. So without further ado, I dedicate this piece to the brave and brilliant artists of New York City, who I am sure have worked so hard at their craft to get where they are. I created this work for you because it is a kind of work you all deserve. Thanks for everything. And here's the story. It's late when Kyle gets home. He opens the fridge. Something's missing. Chris? He usually wouldn't bother, this late and all, but some things matter more to him than others. Chris, you awake? Chris is in his bedroom. He wasn't asleep yet, just watching TV. He's sipping from a mason jar, flipping through channels, and he hears Kyle come in, making all that noise. He comes out to the kitchen, finds Kyle with his head in the fridge. Yo, what's up, dude? Hey, dude, didn't mean to bother you, but I can't find my... Kyle stares at Chris. He's wrapped in a bathrobe, drinking out of a jar, and Kyle's words lose traction in his mouth. His eyes dart to Chris, to the fridge, to the jar. Dude. Yeah, dude? Chris. Yeah? What, dude? Dude, are you drinking my piss? What? Dude, you're drinking my piss. Kyle points to the jar in Chris's hand. Chris holds the jar up to the light, taking time to carefully examine it. It's pale like champagne, absolutely clear, with a light bubble pop at the surface. Kyle, dude, what the hell? I was saving that piss. Oh, dude, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I thought it was mine. You can take one of my jars, okay, dude? Dumbfounded, Kyle echoes, take one of your jars? Well, yeah, my bad, you know. I drank yours so you can have one of mine. Oh, well, good and well, dude. All good and well, except here's the thing, Chris. I don't want to drink your piss. I want to drink my piss. I'm sorry, but I already drank most of it. It's my bad, dude. I'm really sorry. You can have 2 jars of my piss. I'm sorry. I really feel bad, dude. Kyle loses what little cool he has left. Chris, I don't want 1 jar, 2 jars, a million jars of your piss. I don't want to drink any of your piss at all because your piss tastes like shit. Chris recoils. He's always considered himself a bit of an artist when it comes to piss. And to hear his best friend tell him that his piss tastes bad isn't just an insult to his art, it's an insult to himself as an artist. My piss does not taste like shit. Yes, it does. Everything about it sucks. It's flat, bitter, no mouthfeel, no hints of flavor whatsoever. You make dull, flavorless piss. Why do you think we have so many extra jars of yours? Because nobody likes it. Now, my piss is aged. I take into careful consideration exactly what I eat and drink. You can taste the care I put into every drop. Kyle swipes the piss jar out of Chris's hand and takes a sip, teases it over his tongue. Hints of vanilla, fruity aroma, mouthfeel, a crisp fizz to it. Gulp. Sophisticated, delicious. Yours, on the other hand, it's juvenile at best. It tastes like a child's piss. This is the breaking point for Chris. Having downed several gallons of child's piss in his life, and knowing exactly how flavorless it is, he feels that Kyle has crossed the line. You know what, dude? Fuck you, all right? My piss might not be as sophisticated as yours, but it has one thing yours never will have: passion. I don't just make piss with my kidneys and penis. I brew it in my heart. And newsflash, dude, your piss is mediocre at best. Oh yeah, says Kyle, holding up nearly empty jar of piss. Mediocre at best, huh? Is that why you glugged down half the jar? Dude, I don't know what you want me to tell you at this point. I offered you my piss and you're being a dick. Why are you making such a big deal about it? Why am I making such a big deal out of it? I don't know. Dude, are you serious? Do you understand the work I put into all that piss? The stress of my bladder, the precise diet? I've been aging that piss for weeks. It was a special brew. I made it specifically to be served at dinner with my girlfriend's parents. You know, the dinner I've been planning for a month. The dinner where I was planning on asking your father for a hand in marriage. I put all my hopes and dreams into that piss jar, and you gulped it down like a hillbilly. And you're supposed to be my friend? Hot tears streak Kyle's face. It's a slow collapse of the knee, and he's sitting in a ball of himself on the dirty piss-stained floor. I love her, dude. I really needed that piss jar. Chris kneels down beside him, unburies Kyle's head out of his arms, and holds him tenderly by the chin. Dude, Jessica loves you, and no amount of piss is going to change that. As for her parents, they'll love you for who you are, a tender, playful, wonderful boy. Chris brushes the tears from Kyle's cheeks. But Chris, I promised them piss. They're counting on me. I can't show up empty-handed. And I'll help you. We'll make more piss, together. Chris sticks his hand out. Kyle looks up, looks into Chris's gleaming eyes, sees the conviction in them. Kyle grabs the hand. They pull each other into a hug. Yeah, says Kyle. Together. I love you, dude. I love you too, dude. It's all smiles and tears now. A ghost of a kiss threatens both of their lips. They don't need to say it out loud, but somehow they both feel that together they can achieve anything they put their minds to. There's a knock at the door. Uh, Kyle smiles. Well, I better wash all these tears and boogers off my face. Would you get the door? Sure, dude. While Kyle's blowing his nose in the kitchen sink all over the dirty dishes, Chris answers the door. It's just their mild-mannered neighbor, Mr. Johnson. Oh, hello, Mr. Johnson. What can I do for you? Hey, Chris. I'm doing some baking and was wondering if I could borrow a few ingredients. Of course, come right in. Chris leads him down the hallway. Kyle calls from the kitchen. Chris, who is it? Just our mild-mannered neighbor, Mr. Johnson. He's here to borrow some baking stuff. Kyle pukes a little, then takes his head out of the sink. Oh, hello, Mr. Johnson. Hello, Kyle. Nice to see you. They're standing in the kitchen now. The sexual tension dances through the room like a fat-ass, bussy ghost, twink. Well, these are buzzwords for Dime Square. Well, Mr. Johnson, what can we get you? What can we do for you? Well, me and the wife are making an angel pea cake, and I was wondering if we could borrow a jar or two. I'd make it myself, but, well, when you get to be my age, the stream dries up quite a bit. Ha ha ha. And, well, I'd ask the missus, but he playfully nudges both of them. Well, you both know how girl pee tastes. Ha 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 ha. Everyone gags at the thought of drinking girl's piss, but then it resolves into a lighthearted laugh. Ew, girl piss, says Chris. Kyle checks the fridge for piss. All that's left is 2 jars, one of Kyle's making and one of Chris's brews. Kyle considers it. His jar needs to be aged sometime before it's suitable for drinking, but it'd be perfect for baking, but then it is his last jar. Chris sees his jar in the fridge, his latest work, and he feels that it may even be his best. It would be a shame not to drink it, but it'd also be a shame to waste Kyle's excellent piss. The two look at the 2 jars, then to each other. At the same time, they reach for their respective jars and offer them to their neighbor. At the same time, they say, Here, Mr. Johnson, you can have my pee. They turn, lock eyes, realize what they've done, bite their lips, and laugh playfully. Then they both say, Oops, I mean, you can have our piss jars. Mr. Johnson is pleased. Wow, thanks, boys. This piss looks great. Thank you so much. I'll be sure to send over some slices once the cake's out of the oven. He turns to leave, but when he's nearly out the front door, he turns around over his shoulder and he says, Oh, yeah, one more thing. A whirlwind kicks up around Mr. Johnson, knocking down and smashing every plate and piece of furniture Kyle and Chris own against the wall and ruining their entire house. Shattering the windows, ripping the studs out of the drywall. Lightning strikes the mild-mannered Mr. Johnson, all at once starting a small fire within the house while also transforming him into Piss Man. Kyle and Chris are astounded. They shout, Oh my God, dude, it's Piss Man. Piss Man offers a hearty laugh. Ha ha ha. Then flexes his penis into a heroic pose. That's right, boys. It's me, Piss Man. And with his big penis, he points at the 2 of them. And I need your help. Wow, Piss Man, you need our help? Ha ha ha. That's right. My arch nemesis, Incontinence Man, has stripped me of my piss powers by placing a force field within my urethra. Luckily, I know his one weakness, being soaked in piss. I need you 2 to make gallons of piss and throw it at him, lowering his shields long enough so that I can kill him. Yes, sir, anything for you, Piss Man, says Kyle. But Piss Man, says Chris. There are billions of people who piss in jars and drink it all over the world. Why us? Piss Man rests his cock on Chris's shoulder and explains, Well, son, I heard your argument earlier with my super pissed hearing, and I heard how you two resolved it. Then I knew for sure it had to be you two when you both offered me your chairs to piss. You see, Incontinence Man is a dangerous adversary. We'll need more than just strong piss to take him down. We'll need something stronger. We'll need the power of friendship. Kyle and Chris look at each other, then back to Pissman. Okay, Pissman, we got your back. Let's do this. They immediately get to work. Kyle and Chris gulp down gallons and gallons of water and piss it out into a kiddie pool. With his super piss speed, Pissman rapidly fills up gallon jugs in the sink and hands them over to the boys to suck down. After an hour straight of pissing, the team starts to feel the strain. Ow, says Kyle. I feel like my urethra is getting stretched out from all this piss. Me too, dude. Look. Chris shows Kyle his penis, and his urethra looks like one of those earlobes that gets stretched out by those big, stupid-looking gauges people used to wear a decade ago. It looked like Chris could stick his whole finger inside it without touching the sides. Kyle was tempted to pop a finger in it, too, and maybe Chris was hoping for it. You boys have to keep going, says Pissman. The city's depending on you. The two strain harder to squirt piss from their dicks. Veins popping out of their foreheads and cocks. They hold on tight to each other's hands and try their best to squeeze out every drop. Tears well in their eyes. No crying, says Pissman. Save it for the piss. After 6 hours of continuous peeing, they filled up the pool with piss. Very good, boys. Now let's have a taste. Pissman dips a ladle and takes a sip. Oh no. What is it, sir? What is it, sir? This piss. It's too weak to defeat Incontinence Man. We need to strengthen it. But Pissman, how do we do that? You two need to sip up all this piss and pee it out again. It's the only way. They're both unsure if they can do it, but then they look into each other's eyes. They both know the strength of their friendship can overcome a kiddie pool filled to the brim with their own piss. Hand in hand, they kneel down and start slurping, and something surprises them. The piss isn't just Kyle's, and it isn't just Chris's. Instead, it's the perfect blend of the two, and they realize that the piss they're drinking now is the most delicious piss they've ever tasted. It's so good that they empty the pool in a little under 25 minutes and lick the bottom for stray piss droplets. They immediately start pissing it all out again. Pissman tests the strength of the new piss. This is the strongest, most delicious piss I've ever had. It's complex, fruity, dignified, passionate, and most importantly, it tastes like friendship. You two should be proud. They bottle all this piss into easy explode tactical piss jars and set out in search of Incontinence Man. Incontinence Man is in the middle of the city square, carrying out a demonstration for all those around him. He twirls his handlebar mustache in one hand while holding a crowd of 1,000 people at gunpoint with a pistol in the other. In the middle of the square, 8 pregnant women. Ha ha ha, yes. Now watch as I show you all the meaning of incontinence by making sure these 8 pregnant women who are all 9 months pregnant never give birth to these babies. Ha ha ha. You monster, somebody stop him. Somebody shouts from the crowd. Incontinence Man instantly shoots and kills that guy. Ha ha ha, yes. Now all you people watch as I, Incontinence Man, and from his breast pocket he pulls out a wire coat hanger, abort 8 fetusi in front of you all. And the best part, nobody can stop me. Not even your beloved Pissman. Then from out of the crowd emerges Chris, Kyle, and Pissman. Stop right there, says Pissman. Pissman, says Incontinence Man. That's right. And now your reign of terror is about to pass. Oh, don't be so sure, Pissman. I'm sure I can work out a way to. And he fiddles with his wrist-mounted computer. Clog things up. Incontinence man presses a button and Piss man reels in pain. Ah! Piss man, what's wrong? Says Kyle. Ah! The force field he's implanted in my urethra. He's expanding it. Ah, quick, boys, the plan, just as we discussed. Yes, sir, they both say. It was a hard fought battle. Kyle and Chris woke up next to each other in the hospital. Ugh, where are we? Good, you boys are awake, says Pissman. You're in the hospital. Did we win? Huh. Yeah, boys, we sure did. It was hard fought. I took a pretty bad beating myself. When he said this, Kyle and Chris noticed just how bad a shape Pissman was in. Two black eyes, an arm in a sling, swollen cock, and shriveled balls bulging out of his latex superhero suit. But we gave it our all, and we did it. What happened? We were ambushed, thousands of henchmen clogging in, and I was nearly crippled with my penis under his control. But in the end, you boys soaked them all. The piss shorted out the computer he used to control the force field within my penis. Having been blocked up for so long, I immediately pissed myself. And then I punched him in the back of the head, instantly paralyzing him. Then I boxed his ears and killed him. But before we could celebrate our victory, you two passed out from dehydration. So I flew you two to the hospital, and here we are. We did it, Kyle. Yeah, we sure did, dude. You two are heroes. We saved the city together, as a team. And as a little token of my appreciation, I'd like to give you a little something special. Pissman pulls down his pants, revealing a battle-worn but still larger than average cock. He walks up to their beds and starts pissing directly into both of their mouths. They love it. I've dialed in my piss precisely to pass along the super piss powers. Drink long, friends, because each mouthful of piss will transform your DNA, molding you into superhuman beings. And with each successive mouthful of hot piss sloshing mouths, Kyle and Chris felt their DNA break apart and transform into something extraordinary. Unfortunately, their story ends soon after. Pissman underestimated the strength of his piss. Within days, Kyle's and Chris's skin fell off due to extreme radiation poisoning, and they died next to each other in extreme pain. In fact, every nurse, doctor, and patient in the building also suffered extreme radiation poisoning, killing many. The event was swept under the rug in order to protect Pissman's reputation. Instead, it was reported that the two brave friends, Chris Edwards and Kyle Dunn, gave their lives to protect their city from the evil incontinence men. They went down in history as true American patriots. Inspired by Chris's and Kyle's valiant efforts, one of the pregnant women they saved from incontinence man's forced abortion scheme decided to name her infant son after the heroes. On April 8th, 1972, American sniper Chris Kyle is born. Hailed as the greatest American hero of all time, it is well known that in honor of his namesake, Chris Kyle would glug down a full jar of piss whenever he killed a stupid, ugly, smelly brown infant in Iraq. In honor of Chris Kyle and all our brave fallen soldiers this Memorial Day, make sure to give them a mouthful, piss on their graves.
John. Okay. Okay. All right. So there's a lot going on here, John. Okay. I have to get this out of the way first. I did not in a million years see the end of that story coming. I thought I knew what the joke was. I thought I had heard the joke again and again and again. I was like, okay, I know what John's doing here. I And so when the punchline arrived, it's all right, gotta get my shit together here. It caught me 100% off guard. And it does a thing that I've seen you do in several of your stories, which is that you get us so pulled into one variety of absurdity, right? You sell us so hard on a particular brand of like the fucked up and absurd that when you arrive at the punchline, at the joke, at the twist at the end of the story, and you change the form of absurdity that you're playing with, it's always so effective, man. You fucking slew me with this one.
Well,
And it's no wonder that you're such a luminary and such a rising star in the New York literary scene, because who could possibly resist the allures of a story like this one? I'll also say that everyone, including myself, really seemed to be sold on the wait, let me scroll back, and if I holy shit, there's a lot of the no crying, save it for piss line was particularly choice. And perhaps my second favorite moment in the story, aside from the ending. Though, and obviously I really appreciate your decision to dedicate this story to the New York literary scene. As you know, I'm also a massive fan of the New York literary scene and its complete lack of pretension or clout chasing or completely pathological and sociological, just narcissistic behavior. So thank goodness none of that's going on, and thank goodness it's
huh.
producing artists like you instead.
Well, yeah, I just, I know, you know, there are some points in this, story where, they definitely might seem a little silly on the surface, but
Just superficially, sure.
superficially, I just really wanted to give back to because I feel like Dime Square has given me so much.
Yeah, yeah. And look at what it's giving humanity through you.
I mean, I don't like, I don't know where we'd be without like me aside, I'm such a small cog in this beautiful mechanism,
Oh,
but
John, you underestimate your importance.
just everything that Diamond Square has done for the culture. I mean, we're so much all like the artwork we have now is so much more challenging. It's the whole idea of being traditionally Catholic is truly subversive, you know?
Yeah, that's the word I would use. Certainly not something that would be broadly popular among the elderly and the marginally educated.
So I'm just so excited, to be here. Me and Jan came up with a story together, but I'm taking full credit for it.
Oh yeah, Jan asked you to tell the backstory.
Um, I think it was when we were working on something, and instead of doing any work, we just kept saying, "Oh, dude, are you drinking my piss? Dude, I was saving that piss. You're not supposed to be drinking my piss." And we did that for about 2 hours.
A collaborative relationship unlike any in literature today. Just really, really next level
Wow.
shit. You know how Ezra Pound notoriously edited T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland, and you can get that like the version of it that has all of Pound's edits in it, and like it shows how Pound really like brought out the power, excuse me, hidden within Eliot's work, and how the poem would never have been the unique literary masterwork that it is without his input. Well, something similar, I think, is going on here with this Piss Man story. Who
Huh.
knows who knows what a lesser work it would be if not for Jan's input. All right, okay, we're done. We got to move on.
John.
Oh, yeah.
I have a technical question about the Pissman story.
Okay, yes.
Um, is it dedicated to both the New York art scene and also Chris Kyle? Because depending on that, I'm not sure how to feel about it.
Well, every story I've written is dedicated to Chris Kyle.
Okay, well yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. But
That's
this
fair.
one, yeah. So Chris Kyle is like the dedication.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fair.
I
Yeah.
was under the assumption that that's what all this Misery Loves Company was for.
Yeah, Chris Kyle. It's all for Chris Kyle, right?
That's
Yeah.
right. We're a Chris Kyle fan club. That's what
Yep.
this is. All right. Thank you, John. Thank you, John. Thank you,
Oh boy.
Jan, and thank you everyone at Times Square, I guess. So speaking of Jan, Jan is up next, but as usual, Jan refuses to read his own work in public for reasons we can only speculate on. So I think Rudy, you're going to be reading a piece by Jan. Oh, Jan's warging into Rudy's body again.
Here comes the some noises that they make when they get warmed into. Oh yeah, the Hodor thing, right? Yeah, Game of Thrones theme is playing. So I'm gonna read a couple pieces by Jan Stenek, the infamous. I believe these two come from a collection called Merry Go Round Broke Down. This first one, number one, is called Smile, Darnya, Smile. 10,000 generations gone through the mouth, devoured and digested by rolling waves of acidic culture conf, sunless country land without God, broken in half by repeated disappointments in messianic prophesying at the Oracle in Columbia, racked by beautiful divine race hatred, by cattle car deportation, by lone schizophrenic gunmen, by holding Congress with the jackals and night birds, by laughing heads and electrical boxes, by alcoholized death, sex death, by 12 successive movements, each failing, by the depressing restrictions of a Franco-German Creole, by the rivers of Babylon we sat and wept when we remembered Zion. In filthy middle America, Ruiz Tagle talks to me about how his grandmother was nearly sold to the Aztecs at the age of 12 and the Third Civil War in America, and a racial holy war, and how they fuck dogs, and the myth of Aztlan, and the lack of solidarity among the radicalized or the racialized proletariat, and how this is a good thing for them at times a Zionist occupied government overrun with Sabbatean conspiracy and Judaized beyond all hope of national repair and racial brotherhood, how we are divided into 12 tribes by the industrialists, how the American spirit is mestizo and drives forward down an autobahn towards pure form of miscegenation, and how only when we are all one indistinct mass can we overcome. Klansmen have more in common with 5%ers than either will ever have with them, he says. And these are his words, not mine. Part 2, Merry-Go-Round broke down. Big Mike still believes in segregation, and when he drinks, he goes back to the time of American apartheid and sees in cinematic symphonic movement the innocence of James Earl Ray. Big Mike has worked in a kitchen since the age of 10, and he has never been his own boss. Big Mike comes from Strawberry Mansion and works straight through every national tragedy, which leaves everyone hungry. Big Mike is old, and the waitresses feel deep bone fear that only comes out when white ladies see a black man with nothing. Big Mike jokes about raping me in the sub-basement drunk again, and I cough and say, yeah, anyway, let's get the light bulbs. Big Mike loves me and snaps a photo of us together in front of a rickety dishwashing machine older than I am. Big Mike's brain is soaked through, and he forgets what year it is and thinks he's known me since I was 10 years old. Big Mike remarks on how tall I am now, all these years later, before saying the white dishwasher, 62 years old, Hank, is bawling Kathy, 59, after work every day, and Hank overhears us and says something. It takes 3 months to understand what Hank is saying because Hank doesn't have any teeth left in his mouth. My friend Lana started working in a similar, not the same, grease-stained Italian restaurant peopled by walking corpses and cut off all of her hair. She quit after a month. She looks like a 4'11" cancer patient. Everyone here but me waits for the bus at 11 o'clock. The front and back of the house packed under the same rain shelter. Malabolja is in a strip mall on the Roosevelt Boulevard. From the rain-sagging roof of his house along Allegheny, Big Mike can look east and see across the chemical-soaked river, out of sight but not sent, the American Rhine, and he can see water towers in New Jersey. And from the roof of his house, he can see his house from up here. Homeless Judy tells me that she has done hard time, federal. Homeless Judy tells me that she has herpes and shows me. Homeless Judy tells me that she once burned down her ex-husband's house. Homeless Judy tells me she's not technically homeless, given that she lives in a shelter and has a job and is far from the regular fare of tranquilized necrophagous bums as we are from China. In Malbolgia, the boss sleeps on a cot behind the walk-in, and he has lived illegally in this country for 42 years. In his homeland, he owns a villa, but in America, he never changes clothes. He sees prostitutes down in the basement and has millions of dollars. Taped to the cement wall are photos of dead cooks and Big Mike. His mother has died 27 times because she is his excuse. The other waitress tells me that her home country has a lottery, and if you win, you can leave and go somewhere else, like America. This is heaven, and never will I be happier. And that is Mr. Jan Stanek.
Just a quick clarifying question, Rudy. These aren't two separate poems. These are two halves of the same poem, right? Two parts of the same poem.
I believe these are, yeah. This is, yeah. It's I think Jan can correct me if I'm wrong. I think they're two
Oh,
like
Jan. Okay,
movements of.
okay. I just wanted to be sure of that because otherwise, what I was about to say would sound really fucking dumb if they were two separate and totally distinct works. So, Jan, this is fucking tremendous, Jan. I love this piece, and I love the interplay between the two halves of this piece because you really get this is like. I know I was just talking about the wasteland, and maybe that's why it's in my head right now, but this is kind of this is kind of like a highly racialized like wasteland about the contemporary American working class, right? And I love how you have this like this it starts with this long ideological tirade, this deeply racist ideological tirade that weaves this complex conspiratorial worldview that's very much about like, well, the working class is in the place that it is in because like, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, the Jews, the blacks, and so on and so forth. And then it's contrasted with the second half, which is this very bleak, but also weirdly bittersweet, like look at actual working class American life and at the that's still very dark and still full of plenty of ugliness, but also has this real tenderness for these individuals. And the contrast between those two things, the contrast between like the conspiratorial, ideological perspective on this life and the like lived the brutally painful like lived experience of it. It's so good. It's so good. This is truly, I think, really fucking tremendous, Jan. And you've been on a real fucking roll lately. That really makes me want to bring a certain publication back from the dead so that we can publish your unpublishable works. But hey, I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying anything, Jan. I'm not. Don't do that to me. Anyway, Jan, I love this. I really tremendously love this piece. Thank you, man. And Rudy, they can you say what I need you to read just one little part again. What was it like bone feel or something? Or bone fear, maybe. I need you to read that line again because nobody but you could have read that line as well as you did.
Yeah, so Big Mike is old, and the waitresses feel deep bone fear
That's
that only
it.
comes out when white ladies see a black man with nothing. That's such a good line, Jan. My goodness, that's fucking good.
I could feel when Rudy read
Bone
it, I could
fear.
feel how much he loved that line. It came out in
I
the
told Jan
performance.
it. I told Jan it was a good fucking line. It's really good.
John, I don't know what you're speculating about. I didn't say anything. We're not publishing anything. Anyway, Rudy, don't mute your mic because you are up next.
What? So, with this piece, Kat was generous enough to publish this on Vanity Press. I'm gonna put the link on the Twitter here real quick. I put it in the chat too. Sorry, I'm really retarded.
Oh, I put
Okay,
the
there we
link
go.
in the chat if that's.
Okay, yeah, I was just posting the post here.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. So I'm gonna read this. This is a piece about me and yeah, you should basically kill me because I'm a fucking retard, so whatever. Kill Rudy Johnson. It's November 21st now. There is a novel JRPG battle system walking through the kitchen, breaking things. Never mind, that's Rudy Johnson. Kill Rudy Johnson. Rudy Johnson must survive. Kill Rudy Johnson. You are too far away to do that. If you want to fight Rudy Johnson, come up to Hallam Circle in Malone, New York. Brown house, green car parked out front. That's what Rudy Johnson writes in a love note to a pizza delivery girl. Rudy Johnson loves the pizza anyway. Having an orgasm, eyes closed, eating garbage food that will eventually kill Rudy Johnson. No, this poem is progress for Rudy Johnson, because every time Rudy Johnson wants to say the gamer word, the white sheets word, the N word, Rudy Johnson writes Rudy Johnson instead. We don't want Rudy Johnsons in our school. We're not for integration. Rudy Johnson is for integration of augmented reality elements in everything. Rudy Johnson's life is augmented reality, insubstantial things coming to life through a mechanical lens, a lens that will eventually kill Rudy Johnson or just cut Rudy Johnson a little. Slack-jawed Rudy Johnson. I love Big Pharma, says one of Rudy Johnson's 3 t-shirts, one that isn't the Confederate one. 2 people who aren't the Malone Village police who can subdue Rudy Johnson, the big buck Rudy Johnson, can't subdue anyone right now, for they are dead, ate up by the wages of Rudy Johnson. Rudy Johnson gets paid wages for working 2 or 3 days a week. Fucking Rudy Johnson. And you can call every business in Malone to find out where that workplace is if you want to say bad things about Rudy Johnson, to get Rudy Johnson fired in order to more speedily kill Rudy Johnson. Or you might just send goons to Rudy Johnson's house to beat Rudy Johnson even more senseless, to beat Rudy Johnson stupider, to beat Rudy Johnson at chess if they're feeling generous. Goons to break Rudy Johnson's legs like a mooly wishbone. I wish plumbers and pipe fitters local union 773 would send a guy to fix the pipes at Hallam Circle. Rudy Johnson wishes on busted knees, tibias exposed like Rudy Johnson's crimes after a Google search, assuming the AI generated one doesn't find it quicker. AI beating the game before you, stalker. AI beating Rudy Johnson to a pulp, a higher tech lynching. Hire Rudy Johnson? Not after this, they won't. After this, the town is going to come pitchforks and all to kill Rudy Johnson. Rudy Johnson will be like the Beast and Beauty and a faggot too, who has weird thoughts about Bell and being Bell and bell curves. Rudy Johnson is sitting there with busted shins bleeding out. They have finally done the deed. The mission to kill Rudy Johnson is complete. New Game Plus. Rudy Johnson is back, weaker than ever. Now every part of the game loop revolves around how to save Rudy Johnson. You're in the dungeon hacking up monsters. All the monsters are things that Rudy Johnson dislikes. Games, poetry, time to reflect, etc. All Rudy Johnson's baggins is laid out like the dwarf song in the Rankin Bass Hobbit movie. The song that segues into Gandalf's reflection. Ooh, that's what Rudy Johnson hates. Better go back to your airship and save if you want to save Rudy Johnson. Rudy Johnson is like a lemming in the 90s strategy game. Stop the many Rudy Johnsons that emerge from jumping off the Chateauguay Bridge by turning one of them into a cop, by handing one an umbrella, by telling one to count down from 5 and watching the subsequent explosion. Sometimes letting Rudy Johnson explode is the only way to save Rudy Johnson. Maybe the best way to save Rudy Johnson is to do it often, so you always have a copy of Rudy Johnson in case someone gets it in their head to kill Rudy Johnson. For example, Rudy Johnson. Whenever Rudy Johnson enters a new room, save Rudy Johnson. Whenever Rudy Johnson plays Russian roulette with the 2 or 3 hobbies that fulfill Rudy Johnson, but also kill Rudy Johnson, save Rudy Johnson. Bang. Whenever Rudy Johnson saves a file to the Dropbox, well, you know. But you'd better make sure when saving Rudy Johnson that the game you're playing isn't some brainfuck exercise like Doki Doki Literature Club. Hint, it is, where Rudy Johnson is manipulating or otherwise thwarting or subverting or corrupting your saves of Rudy Johnson. Maybe you just have to get to a point in your time with Rudy Johnson where you're given the right permissions so you can have some hope of resetting your playthrough. Allow Rudy Johnson's brain time to deworm a little temporarily. Get another chance at dialogue with Rudy Johnson's many sides. Who doesn't want to replay a game where every character is Rudy Johnson? Rudy Johnson talking in a redneck voice. Rudy Johnson talking in a black voice. Rudy Johnson wearing a burqa. Rudy Johnson wearing a ski mask. Rudy Johnson wearing a fascist uniform. Rudy Johnson eating pizza again. Rudy Johnson eating deer. Rudy Johnson taking a hunter safety course. Say this line like a Bostonian Jew. Rudy Johnson taking a junta safety course. Say this line like an Estonian collaborator. Who the fuck is Rudy Johnson? Why would you want to say Rudy Johnson? Holy fucking shit. Just kill Rudy Johnson.
Man, I fucking love it. I love this poem so much, man. This is the rare instance where this morning I experienced a brief and fleeting moment of literacy, and I actually read this
Literacy.
prior to Misery Loves Company, so this is my second time experiencing it. And man, yeah, what were you going to
I
say?
experienced a brief moment of literacy when I wrote this.
Yeah. Hopefully neither of us will ever experience a brief moment of literacy.
I hate literacy.
Man, though, I fucking love this. I love this piece. I I love everything about this poem. I love the way it evolves. I love the cadence of it. This is very like the rhythm of this poem is very different than the rhythm that a lot of your poems have, but it's really effective at like propelling you through the piece, right? There's a very distinct cadence to it that like drags you through the poem in a wonderful sort of way. I love the way the piece keeps evolving and iterating on this theme and evolving and iterating, and every time it gets a little funnier, it gets a little sadder, it gets a little weirder, it goes in a slightly different and unexpected direction. And then I love the New Game Plus moment in the middle of the poem there, where the objective changes, and it just because like it would have been so easy for this poem to just be a uniquely like despairing poem, to be like a suicide by proxy poem, right? With a little bit of gaming stuff sprinkled in. But instead, you have that New Game Plus twist in the middle. And somehow, instead of making the poem more hopeful, it actually makes the poem more despairing, which I really appreciate. Like the desperate attempt to save Rudy Johnson from himself. And I don't know why, but I really love the Lemmings bit. I don't know why that's so viscerally effective. I think it's not just because of like the obvious like parallel with like the video game, but like the way they're so like cartoonish and adorable in that game while they're in the act
Yeah.
of like destroying themselves. And it's
Yeah.
such a perfect choice for this poem because it adds that little hint of cartoonishness on the top of it, right? It adds that little hint of absurdity. And I can just visualize you wearing the little like police hat, holding up the stop sign, or otherwise, like with the little umbrella, which is like as you mentioned, like one of the hallmarks of the game, the little red and white striped umbrella, like drifting off the bridge while trying to kill yourself. I mean, it's just I don't know, it's a phenomenal piece of writing. I do have a question for you though. I do have one question. Well, actually,
Yep.
it's two questions. It's two parts of the same
Mhm.
question. First of all, did you write this piece specifically for Vanity?
Yes.
Okay, with that in mind, now knowing the way, having known you since second grade and knowing the way your mind worked, I noticed there was I
Here's
noticed
what
a
I'm
word
missing, right?
choice. I noticed a word choice.
Yep.
You're somebody, you're highly selective in your use of, you have a
Yep.
very robust vocabulary of slurs, and I noticed that
Yep.
you picked a particular so was your use of Mooley intentional because of the publication that you were sending it to? Is what I'm
Oh, okay.
asking.
Yeah. I mean, the way I reasoned it is I had to say nigger in there, but like
Mhm.
Mooly is like nigger. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Kat, but it's kind of a word akin to nigger, right? I mean, so I wanted to say the N word, but then I got to the point where it was like, oh, like I'm using this joke instead of saying the N word. So I used
Yeah,
Mooly, and
you
I
wrote
had already
yourself into a
made the joke.
corner.
Right, yeah. So that's why I use Mooly.
Okay.
Yeah. Bully is also a really, really good word too. So yeah, the Italians really have some good ones.
Okay. All right, man. It was an awesome piece.
Thank,
Yeah, Rudy.
thank you to Kat for publishing that one. And also, if the town of my home country of Malone, I would like to say some words about this poem. And speak now or forever hold your peace, Taylor Swift.
Is Malone, New York is
Malone,
still
New York is still here. I
well,
don't know who it is, but if they got something to say, they better
who
say
the
it.
fuck could Malone, New York be
I
anyway?
don't know.
Anyway, while we're waiting to see if Malone, New York says anything, yeah, I do want to just point out to everyone, like Rudy said, uh, Cat's publication, Vanity, is back from the dead and already publishing some really tremendous shit, including this
Hell
poem.
yeah.
So if you haven't checked it out already, you should check it out. And also, I want to go on the record saying this publicly, and Kat can verify this because I said this to her, I don't know, fucking 2 years ago or whenever she launched the website first before abandoning it. This is one of my favorite website designs in all of the Outsider Lit space. I love the fucking hot pink mixed with the yellow text. I am actually hugely envious of and like the hyper minimalism of it. I'm actually hugely envious of how this site is laid out. So just wanted to put that
It
out there.
slaps.
Anyway, anyway, Malone, New York had its chance to weigh in, and as usual, Malone, New York has nothing to say, and probably couldn't have read the poem in the first place if the town's literacy rates are any indication. I mean, look, Rudy and I can't even read. All right, okay. Thank you, Rudy. Michael McSweeney is up next.
Cool. Let me just drop a link here. So I think I actually read an earlier version of this a few months ago, but I've been reworking it and revising it. And yeah, I'm gonna read it again tonight. So hopefully that is okay. Do I only get 6 minutes, Josh? I should be able to read this in about 6 minutes. Still mad about that. All right, cool. This is called Local Flavor. Here comes Jay, patron saint of idleness, who beat back cancer last October just to watch his missus fade, hauling his latest pot of soup down from his second floor walk up. I'm across the street, clipping my nails on the front steps of the boarding house and listening as the eaves and trees of the neighborhood shed rainwater from a week-long summer storm. Last night was so savage I tore up my junk mail to block the cracks in the air conditioner as it fought the thunderous heat and the water as it rushed through in hurried rivulets. Now the storm is gone and my lungs feel clear, and yes, the town sewer begs for mercy through its iron bar lips, and at the far end of the street, someone's car won't start and probably never will. But today I can open my mouth, breathe the muggy salvation, and taste some small reprieves on this calm and cloudy day. Jay smiles and gives me a nod. I pocket my clippers and duck inside to collect bowls, napkins, and spoons. I'm part of his ceremony now. The gathering for soup, a weekly ritual. A goddamn local beauty, and I'm a minor priest, one step nearer than most to the ragged mystery, the altar of soup. It's okay to be excited about things, I tell myself, to feel good about being involved. I help Jay unfold his long metal table and tell Jay that the soup smells like his best work. I hope so, he says. Jay's hand shakes as he raises the lid. Broth steam eels against his beard. Thick noodles lurk, serpents amid islands of carrot and chicken, flecked by chive and onion curls. Jay tells me about the woman who needed help, and she reached for pasta at the store. It felt so right to be of service, he said, so close to the end. P and D arrive. The other D, not the D who gave out free smokes because he hated smoking alone, who was carried off by an ambulance 2 weeks before, who we've heard nothing from since that night. Jay gives P a soup bowl ladled to the brim, then offers one to Other D. Other D waves it away and touches his stomach. Did you hear the one about Michelangelo? Other D asks. He says Michelangelo's name with a fake Italian accent. No, says P. He wouldn't let his wife paint his nails, says Other D. Jay hands me a bowl of soup. I worry when he doesn't make eye contact. No good? Other D asks me. I think I'm missing something, I say. The ones who get it will get it, Other D says. He winks at Jay. B comes up behind me and squeezes my shoulder. I feel him press a flask into my hand. We're cousins and he's drunk and he wants me to join him. All drunks crave an equal footing. I haven't seen him in months, not since our family buried his father in Holyoke. I tuck the flask into his jacket pocket. You said you'd come to the band concert with me, says B. The rain date, remember? I remember B telling me about this woman who plays clarinet. How 2 weeks ago he went home with her from the bar. He showed me the texts he's sent her since, dozens, an unanswered stream of questions. Have you heard the one about the guy with 5 penises? Other D asks B. No, I haven't, says B, as Jay ladles himself a bowl. Other D clears his throat, then says, this guy with 5 penises, he goes to the doctor, tells him, Doc, I got these 5 penises. Doctor asks, how the hell do your pants fit? The guy says, like a glove. P laughs and I laugh too. Jay smiles and sips from some broth from his bowl. B finishes the flask and stands. Come on, he says. We walk up into town. Everything is still wet from the rain and the shops are empty. The record store owner locks the door as we pass. A battered sedan struggles noisily through a dark puddle. Stoplights flash yellow above the street. B nurses his flask. We pass some teens standing beneath the awning of a storefront, smartphone in each hand. One kid nudging another, trying to get them to take an earbud. Listen to what he's got. We keep going. Everyone's a drink, B growls. At the town green, a small crowd clusters in a scattered semicircle in front of a wooden band shell. Mostly old people in rickety chairs or motorized scooters who've wandered over from their side street redoubts. A few families. 20 musicians in 2 rows of chairs. There she is, says B, and he points, but I can't tell where he's looking. The conductor kneels and reties her shoes. Then she talks about the community band, how much rain they've waded through to play. I clap with the others as she turns her back and raises a baton. The band fumbles through a numbingly patriotic jingle. The song reminds me of childhood, July 4th, the troops and their instruments marching during a time when inspiration came easily. I recognize the next one, Shenandoah, one my grandmother taught me, sung by trappers, men of the canal, deep vein America. I release the grass. I'm bound away and my bones are water, and for a few minutes I'm not one of the countless men of Massachusetts who never find or want to find a reason to leave, who surrender to cheap bottles or shit food or the warm law of the syringe. Someone's calling me. I'm bound away. B steps in my hand and I jolt awake. He's on his feet, America the Beautiful on his lips. A patriotic bellows while his flask rests noble in the grass. The band gawks in our direction. I stand and grab his arm as sea to shining sea staggers from his mouth, and we scrape up the small hill of the green toward town. A police officer smokes a cigarette across the other side of Main Street. We stop and breathe at the edge of the river. Pain squats in my knees, my ankle. Gray and swollen from the storms. The high and holy buzz of water. Brass instruments bleat like distant geese. For now, the world has moved on from what we've done, and as my body begins to relax, my eyes trace the arc of the bridge above the falls. I admire the bridge, its Art Deco knuckles, the way its lights reflect and quiver on the water. Heard a story about that bridge once, I say. Did you now? Asks B. Something about this older couple, I start to say. Grew up here, lived over in Gill, but came across the river all the time. Eat, drink, connect. One night there's a storm coming. They decide they want to get back home before closing time. People at the bar, they see him leave. Only the guy leaves his keys behind, right? Half hour later, he shows up. Somebody gets a close look at him and see he's aged. Lines on the face, hair more gray, skin more gray. Gets the keys, leaves. Only he drops his wallet. While later, his wife comes. She's gone full white now, fingers stretched down to the bone. Lost all the baby weight from that baby they couldn't keep. Bartender says they're out there getting sick. Takes his break, follows them out. They made the bridge, only they didn't make it. Skeletons at the height of the curve, hair and clothes flapping in the breeze. B says nothing, and I think about asking him for his flask. Then B says, I never crossed to the other side. That can't be true, I say. I mean swim. Swim across, I mean. You aren't allowed to swim in this part of the river. Too dangerous. A lot of things are too dangerous. B pulls his shirt off and unbuckles his belt, drops his pants. I do the same. We ease into the water and pull ourselves along a thick cord threading a line of buoys to keep boats away from the falls. We climb onto a dead tree caught on the line. Branches rush by and disappear beyond the falls. People watch us from the riverbank. Someone yells into their phone. I tell B we need to swim back. I could use some of Jay's hot soup, he says. We breathe for a while. This feels like an ending, though I don't know what sort of end I had come to expect in life. Then, an alabaster spotlight delivers a command, as more lights flicker blue and red against the shore. We're coming. Don't move. We're on our way.
Holy shit, Michael. So you have read this piece before at Misery Loves Company, but I can tell you've made a lot of edits and changes to it since then. And man, I loved the tone of this piece then, and I love the tone even more now. The piece about the couple who are like slowly aging, or rather rapidly aging after they leave the bar and turn into skeletons on their way across the bridge, that's new, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. This I this piece has such this like wonderful, like mournful, bittersweet tone to it that I love. And I especially love like the way this is like a piece of Americana, right? There are all like there's Shenandoah and there are all and there's the soup and there are all these like references to like that feel like really profoundly American and just like oddly a little bit patriotic, but it's presented in a way that you don't usually see like Americana and this kind like America presented in fiction, which is to say that often pieces that have like a patriotic undercurrent to them are like really bombastic or they're really tragic or there's some kind of like statement, like political statement being made, like against jingoism or against like patriotism or whatever. But instead, this is like really a sense of like in America that's really like on the cusp of like collapse. It's a real like mournful, almost apocalyptic, but not quite apocalyptic version of America where you feel like things are just where you're on the edge of the end of something, but it's still very beautiful and it's still very profound and there's still real feeling there. And it's just a wonderfully written piece, Michael, and just very subtle and very beautiful in the way it establishes its atmosphere, I think.
Thanks. I really appreciate that. Yeah, this one I've been tinkering with it for a couple of months now, just cramming in random observations from around town. So no, I appreciate the thoughts and the opportunity to read it.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you, man. It's a great piece. So, up next is Josh. Josh, who got here just in time and who I imagine is completely breathless now.
It was very important, William, for me to be here. Yeah, just going to read a couple chapters from the ongoing novel auto portrait I've been reading at some previous ones. So this kind of, I wouldn't say it really picks up where the other ones left off because, well, anyways, you'll see. So this is chapter 5 of the auto portrait. The high point of my life must have occurred when I was 8 or 9. I was floating on an inflatable lounger in the family pool, and my grandmother brought out our new portable phone. It was a friend calling to ask me over. A few years later, I was living in a basement apartment with my mom, and my bedroom had a painting of the Roadrunner from Looney Tunes stenciled on the wall. I burned bridges, then returned to them to make sure the damage is total and complete. Derek Main is my best friend on the internet. I'm not sure the feelings are mutual. I'm already back on social media. The grade school aptitude test said I was best suited to working on an oil rig. The term Chinaman makes me laugh on command. My last debit transaction was for $15.39 earlier this evening on November 29th, 2023. I purchased a pre-made meal called Bubby's Brisket with garlic, kale, and roasted garlic mashed potatoes as sides, and 2 non-alcoholic zero-calorie margaritas from the Sweet Potato Organic Grocery Store on Bayview Avenue. Growing up, I wasn't allowed to celebrate Halloween or my birthday. I only entertain thoughts of suicide to remind myself that I have agency and that it's a choice to be here. I check to make sure my apartment door is locked at least 3 times before leaving. I'm not allergic to anything. In high school gym class, Mr. Hawkins made me and my classmates rate our self-esteem on a scale of 5 based on various criteria, and I gave myself perfect in everything. For some reason, Mr. Hawkins responded by arranging a parent-teacher meeting with my then stepfather to discuss. Once upon a time, gay men would buy me drinks semi-regularly, not just at bars, but Starbucks baristas too. I frequently wear hats, giving people who have only seen photos of me the impression that I'm balding, which I'm not. My first thought is overwhelmingly my worst thought. I won't be rushed. The schizophrenic woman I fell in love with and who tried to destroy my life once told me that she too refused to wipe her own ass once she was toilet trained, but unlike me, she said she yelled finito when she was done. I'm now confident that she was making this up. I'm now confident that she was making up most things she told me. I'm an animal lover, but not a cat person per se. Poverty is one of my biggest fears, so I've never understood the concept of the starving artist. If I'm scrambling for money, I can't be creative and can't comprehend how anyone else could either. I seriously dislike carrying toilet paper without a bag because I assume everyone who sees me with it is thinking about how much I'm about to shit. In 2017, I went on a few dates with an escort. She told me about a recurring dream in which hamburgers were inexplicably fired into a giant net affixed to the CN Tower, and I didn't pay. My belly button is an innie. When I was 11 or 12, I had my first ever slow dance with a girl who was one of my mom's then boyfriend's daughters. The thing I remember most is my sweaty palms on her back. Regrettably, one of the songs I wrote for my teenage ska punk band was titled Feminazi. I say regrettably because it was our catchiest song musically, but I can't share it online because of the title and my desire to not lose another job because of social media. Under no circumstances will I enjoy a bowl of ice cream. My first girlfriend's name was Kelly, spelled with an I at the end, so I called her Kel-I. I have a clay molding of her lips and chin, but no nose, packed away in a box somewhere. She made it for me as a gift. In grade 5, I became the class clown and was sent to the principal's office for the first of many times. I miss red flags. I'm squeamish. I function best with 10 hours of sleep. It was important to my mom that I start working as soon as possible, so I worked cash odd jobs from the age of 14. At one such gig, an 80-year-old man who had hired me had to rescue me when I got pinned to the ground under a wheelbarrow full of gravel. After I bought a pair of Ray-Ban Clubmaster sunglasses, I never wore my folding Wayfarers again. I eat 1 or 2 square meals a day, depending on my medication, mood, and distractions. If a building is under 8 stories, I won't wait for the elevator. I'll take the stairs. Better to be in motion immediately, even if it takes longer. The week that my former best friend Jamie, the one whose parents would take us to Blue Jays and Raptors games, discovered online porn, he loaded some while we were browsing the internet and proceeded to pull out his dick and masturbate. I left the room and could hear his little sister saying, "It's getting bigger, Jamie," but I never told his parents. My high school horniness took on strange forms. I used a free website builder to make a website dedicated to professional female tennis players with individual profile pages for Daniela Hentikova, Yelena Dokic, Elena Devencieva, and others. I feel a bit guilty smoking cigarillos. Because that's what caused the fire that gave Eve Babbitt's third-degree burns all over her body and basically turned her into a recluse. If I don't stick to a strict routine of cleaning my bathroom every week, things will quickly get out of hand. I stick to a strict routine of cleaning my bathroom every week. Until I found out that my biological father, whom I've never met, works for the same telecommunications company as my uncle, I held out hope that he was an artist of some sort as a way to explain me, my predilections and interests, since I was raised in a decidedly uncultured but loving environment. Counting sheep doesn't help me sleep. You'll never catch me wearing a Henley. I haven't seen Two Girls, One Cup. It has been 481 days since my schizophrenic ex who tried to destroy my life last emailed me. Sometimes I recoil from the touch of loved ones. Chapter 6. Next spring, I might get my boating license. I attended one Narcotics Anonymous meeting. All the other attendees seemed illiterate. I didn't return. I remained seated for the national anthem. In high school, I dreamt of becoming a postman because I got to wear shorts to work. Lunette the Clown from the Canadian preschooler show The Big Comfy Couch ushered in my sexual awakening. I was catfished when I was 23 years old. The catfisher wasn't a man, just a very fat girl who was pretending that she wasn't a very fat girl. By the time she came clean, we were such close internet friends that I agreed to meet her at a public library in Brampton anyway. When I met her, she wouldn't let me look at her and spoke to me with her back turned. I don't keep kosher. I assess every room I enter for potential threats, such as chandeliers that could fall on me. I always know where the exit is. Nothing makes me less calm than being told to calm down. I'm wary of microwaves. I moved in with my grandparents at 23 because my mom was nagging me about being unemployed. I took a job at a grocery store, saved up to go back to school, and when my grandparents began suggesting that I contribute to the rent after several months, I moved back with my mom, whom I knew wouldn't make me have a full-time job while I was still in school. If a woman has great style, I can find her attractive even if she is not. Conversely, I'm unconcerned with how tacky a beautiful woman's style is. Over the weekend, on December 10th, 2023, I texted my friend my condolences. His mom had died the day before, and I wrote, "Really sorry to hear about your mom, Steve. Here for you if you need anything, but I'm glad it looks like you have a big support network." My friend replied, "Thanks. It's mostly all on me, actually. The days ahead will be tiring." And I delayed my response, worried I'd get roped into some heavy lifting. I don't care for nipple piercings. I blame alcohol. I'm just waiting to be victimized. I repeated grade 12. My current girlfriend is the ex-girlfriend of my ex-best friend, Mark, who suggested calling my high school punk band Box Cutter Takeover. All winter long, I wear toques that are too small to cover my ears. I went through a phase where I wouldn't call my pets, quote, my pets, unquote. They were my friends, and I'd correct adults who used the term pet. A small clump of hair emerged in the center of my previously hairless chest when I turned 18. "It's like you've got a pussy up there," one of my mom's boyfriends, Bill Gonitis, who ran a carpet cleaning business, said when I explained this disappointing post-pubescent development. I'm equal parts industrious and bumbling. I got banned from a bar where I worked as a DJ for being rude to a customer. The place was practically empty, yet he chose to sit at one of the only tables under a speaker and complained about the volume. I persisted to play the music louder and louder and eventually confronted him outside. Certain bits of SoCal slang, lame and dude, etc., have permanently worked their way into my vocabulary from listening to so much skate punk in my adolescent years. I would sooner die than turn to the Toronto Police Service for help. I text the wheelchair emoji more than you'd think. My signature cocktail is a Paloma. I find it more challenging to perfectly mix vinyl records than to competently play guitar. I actually hung out a few times with the very fat girl who catfished me by pretending not to be a very fat girl, and one time I got an erection, but nothing happened and we eventually lost touch. I couldn't identify a constellation in the night sky if my life depended on it. I rarely yell, and when I do, I immediately feel ridiculous. I didn't experience panic attacks until my early 30s. I've been likened to a cross between Kenny Powers from Eastbound and Down and Dr. Niles Crane from Frasier. I've also been described as Vice Magazine Larry David. 1 in 10 women I've slept with have been named Sophia, which seems like an abnormally high ratio of Sophias. My mom once gifted me a giant oversized novelty eraser that had 4 big mistakes printed on one side. I wish I still had that eraser. If I do get my boating license next spring, I'm going to insist that everyone refer to me as the Admiral henceforth. I forced myself to read the classics, which I find to be hit or miss, perhaps no more or less than contemporary or experimental fiction. But because I read fewer classics, the distinction seems starker. Like there are fewer mid-classics. The Picture of Dorian Gray and All Quiet on the Western Front are examples of hits, while The Grapes of Wrath was a miss despite my love for Steinbeck. I should get a vasectomy. I should get libel insurance. I should cut my toenails more regularly. I should not have had sex with a Scientologist. I won't put my sunglasses on in the winter, no matter how bright the day, no matter how sharply the sun reflects off the snow and into the retinas. I'd like to one day write a book that is called Cowardly rather than Brave in reviews. I'm fairly certain my cowardice would serve me well in post-apocalyptic scenarios. A couple of months ago, I was stressed and plucked every single hair in my nose. I then Googled, is it okay to pluck your nose hair? And after consulting a few sources, lived in fear of infection for weeks afterwards. I refuse offers of umbrellas. I'm paranoid that I plagiarized the last sentence of my first autoportrait from Edouard Levé's autoportrait. I'm just going to read part of number 7. The open bar rules at the wedding I attended on December 17th in Elora, Guelph, Ontario stated no shots or doubles. I found a workaround by simply ordering Manhattans all night. At the same wedding, I told the bride that I would have totally cried if I knew you were the groom, and that the vows were way better than the ones at the wedding I was at a few months ago. Wide leg jeans turned me off. All is vanity and I'm here for it. I'm not a theater person. You could say I'm kind of genre obsessed. I suffer from a compulsion to categorize any art I interact with. Ethically speaking, I think the legal age to appear in porn should be 21, though I'm thankful it's not. I tip 20%. Child-proof locks are also effective against me. I inherited my mom's nose and ears. I seldom risk shoplifting because I believe that I have the kind of face that would inspire someone to press charges. My grade 8 report card had the following to say about me. Joshua rarely identifies factors that affect migration and mobility. With some clarity, Josh demonstrates an understanding of the properties of visible light and other types of electromagnetic radiation. With some misconceptions, he identifies the various states of water on the Earth's surface. Joshua often combines a variety of movement skills in basketball and gymnastics. He needs to come to class in appropriate attire. Josh rarely brings his mouthpiece to class. When he has had a mouthpiece loaned to him, he has not practiced effectively. Josh effectively creates formal and informal works of art through symmetrical and asymmetrical designs. Next term focus will be meeting deadlines. I'll stop there and I'll continue next time.
All right, guys. All right, guys. We have to call Josh Admiral from now on. It's compulsory. From now on, if you if you call Josh anything but Admiral, I'm throwing you out of Misery Loves Company. No, Josh, this is great. As usual, I don't want to repeat what I've said ad nauseum about these pieces, but I really, really appreciate the way that you've structured this, right? Like you've obviously paid a lot of attention to the ordering of these and building up a real effective back and forth and communication is the wrong word, but you know what I'm saying. There's this cadence where it lures you into expecting a certain thing and then you change it up, and then it lures you into expecting something else and you change it up. I will say I really love the fact that you chose to end on the deadlines point. The like creating symmetrical and asymmetrical works of art, but struggles with deadlines. It's still, geez, that one holds true today, Josh, whose piece for The Last Estate I'm still waiting for 6 months more than that since we stopped publishing. But oh man, Josh, the one that really fucking got me from this batch though was not one of the funny ones, although there were certainly many funny ones. But the first one about the catfishing incident, the way that ends, where she wouldn't let you, she stood with her back to you the whole time and she wouldn't let you look at her. That is fucking heartbreaking. That is like I literally like was almost on the cusp of tears during that one because the way you describe it, it's so restrained, it's so direct. You're obviously not going for any kind of maudlin emotion or anything, but just in that very frank and direct way you describe that encounter, there's so much fucking pain there. There's so much like authentic human agony and and then of and then, of course, because you're Josh, you revisit that piece later and completely demolish it in this wonderful way. And I think it's smart. I think you knew that you had something special in that one, so and that the decision to like go back with a sledgehammer later and knock it down is just like the perfect Josh Sherman move. But there are so many great ones. People have been talking about them in the chat. This is, I think, I said this before, but I think this project is really perfectly suited for you, Josh. And I don't know, every time you read from it, it really delivers. So this is good shit, man.
Thanks. And yeah, no, I've wanted to write about that particular instance and maybe will just in notes, I don't know, but that's actually part of the challenge is I don't want to retread too much. Like I have some lines that would work from previous poems and I'm not including them. Similarly, if there's a story I really want to write, I'm probably not going to include too much of it in this. You know, I don't want it to rehash too much. And yeah, the order, I'm still shuffling. So I'm glad that the order seemed to work because even as I'm reading it now, it's like you notice things when you're reading out loud. So there's a couple where it was like, but yeah, a lot of attention is being paid to that and shuffling things apart and closer and whatnot. And sometimes things I want some things to sound like a non sequitur, but they sound like they're not, and I'll move them and vice versa. So, anyways, I'm glad it seems like that's being carried off. And these two were like not ones I like the best, but I kind of just want to read them chronologically because there is some. It's at random, but you'll know I revisit certain anecdotes, so it kind of builds. I guess is the idea. So yeah,
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
and I hope the longer it gets, that tiny details will become. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really see an end in sight, and I'm at close to 10,000, so I'm gonna just keep going. But thanks
Just
for
keep going. Let it snowball. Let it build. You know, Derek is enthusiastically agreeing, I think. He's giving you a fist pump. Anyway, yeah, Josh, this rocks. I think you should just keep going with it. You really should, because this is something that the longer it goes, the more momentum it gathers, the bigger the snowball gets, like the more intricate the web of connections between the pieces become, and the more interesting it becomes as a work. So awesome shit, man.
And the other project I'm working on is I'm working on my John Padula. I'm not anywhere near where I'd need to be, but
Oh my gosh.
I'm kind of yeah, but you know,
You look distinguished, Josh.
that's good. This project's gonna take me longer, I think, than
Oh, you
Autopilot.
are graying, huh?
Oh yeah.
See, that's how I want, how you're graying is how I hope I gray,
I
because
wouldn't wish on
that's
anyone.
what I want. I want, like, if it just goes a little bit, if it's a little around here, that's fine. But I don't want to be fucking, I don't know.
Josh, did you have to get it fitted this part? Like the piece that you're wearing right here.
There
Did
is
you have
no people have long thought there. No, I'm just gonna grow it into a kind of Flaubeckian, and that's the goal, but we're not there yet. But
I
no,
think a little one of the Gallagher brothers going on, the Oasis
I'm
twin.
okay with that. People have
Yeah.
said that. Although my girlfriend's mom was at a I don't know where she was, McDonald's or something. She took a picture of like a 50-year-old Chinese man who had the same hair apparently. So I haven't seen the photo yet, so I don't know.
No, it's very professorial, I think. I think you've got a good thing going there, Josh. Uh, Rudy says you remind him of the Reliant K dude.
I haven't seen him, but I know the band. Anyways,
All right. Thank you, Josh. Closing out the night tonight is Cletus.
Hey there, can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Awesome. All right, well, I'm gonna read some poems for you guys. So, let's see here. So this is called, and these are pretty short poems. So this is called "What I Think About When I Want to Die." Certain products should hurry up and exist. A chocolate-coated shotgun barrel. Another kind of peace. This is, let's see here. Shit, sorry about that. It took me a while to find them. This is called Literary Dystopian Society. There are too many words I don't know. The poets are coming to kill me. This is called The Masochistic Slug. If you need a shoulder to cry on, oh baby, yeah, just like that, it burns. This is called My New Religious Beliefs. A ghost without a sheet is the breeze. Strong winds are a bunch of naked ghosts running a race. A tornado is when they get lost. Their tears are the rain, obviously. The sky is a big ghost on fire. His nail clippings are the moon most nights. The clouds are dandruff or cum. This is alternate reality where I didn't absorb my twin in the womb. I don't need a mirror. I watch him fail and do the opposite. He was born 4 seconds before me. It's like I know the future. This one's called Portent. I see 2 crows chasing a falcon and wonder if it's a bad omen. If I'm crows, the falcon is unattainable dreams. If I'm the falcon, crows are inescapable shame. Life rarely disappoints me. This is called 5 Minute Man, and this is a longer one. The cape got heavy with constant cries for help. Flying is tiring and smiling all the time. The tights seem tight also. So he tossed them out, tried a desk job, worked delivery dudes, unhappy Ubermensch until he masturbated once without catching it. Sperm shot through the ceilings, grazing a woman on floor 10, piercing the sky. It burned up mid-atmosphere. Now Pornhub films cross-country facials, where the woman's in Texas and 5 Minute Man rubs one out in New York. People fucking love that shit. They bring their families on the lawn, try spotting cum hurtling, splat. He wears his cape and nothing else. He is almost happy after post-nut clarity, but can't turn off his ears. And this last 2 are mini eulogies. This one is a eulogy. This is called My Fun Uncle. He wrote his last will and testament on an Etch-a-Sketch. 3 earthquakes have happened since. He had the whitest teeth. This is called Not Man Enough. Smokey died. No taxidermist would stuff her. I tried to do it myself via YouTube tutorial and failed. Pink vase full of ashes. And that's it for me. Thanks a lot, y'all.
Man, those fucking rocked as usual. I will say just a little bit of self-promotion here. I believe that 5 Minute Man poem was initially published in Misery Tourism back in the day. I think that was I think Rudy accepted that one. No, these are fantastic, Cletus. These are fantastic as usual. I love how mystical your poetry often is. It's amazing because you manage to have poetry that feels, like I said, mystical and otherworldly and vaguely magical without it seeming romantic in all the wrong ways, right? Like often when people add out, oh, the Mr. Bones' sister is here screaming at me. Often when people add these kind of notes of mysticism or magical realism to their work, they do it to add like a sense of like to kind of like under add a sense of profoundness to the work in a kind of underhanded way, or to make life perhaps find a kind of like out to make life seem a little more romantic or a little more meaningful or a little bit more friendly and optimistic than it actually is. But you do the opposite. You do something that's really tremendous, which is that all this mystical stuff becomes a kind of series of bad omens, or it becomes like it reinforces the sense of alienation or despair or sadness that sort of exists naturally in your poetry, and it makes it feel profound. It makes it feel perhaps more profound than it would otherwise, but it never feels like a fucking cheat, right? And I'm just really fucking in awe of that, and that's something that I'm actually honestly like profoundly jealous of, your ability to do that, your ability to include these fantastical elements without like carving out the fucking pitch black fucking heart of your work. So I really admire that, man. And I will say, I also really love the masochistic slug poem. That I don't know, that's a killer. That one is a killer right there. Anyway, thank you so much, man. That was great stuff.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, William, for the kind words as always. Thank you so much for that. And thanks everybody for listening.
Yeah, thank you, man. And I had said that Cletus was closing out the night, but I got a last minute request from our man Derek. I think he's going to give us an update on the Young Thug trial.
Yeah,
Derek!
is that all right? I'm just gonna give you an update of the Young Thug trial.
Absolutely, absolutely. I was hoping you would.
Just gonna read my notes from day 12. It's not gonna be super long, and I'm not even gonna give any. If you don't know, you don't know. I mean, I think this will catch enough of it. Good job. I love that. That's very all right. And also these are just like raw ass notes, but I feel like does anyone, where's the emoticon thing? Is anyone paying attention to this trial?
No, I have no idea what's going on with this trial. So this will be interesting.
I cannot wait. Okay, all right. So the way I write my notes, it's gonna be totally confusing, whatever, but I think this will be enough. Jeffrey Williams, so I guess I am gonna say this one thing, that Jeffrey Williams is on trial. The state of Atlanta, in fact, the same prosecutor, actually Fannie Willis, that is charging former President Donald Trump with election interference, is leading this case as well. It's a very important case because Jeffrey Williams is being tried under the RICO Act. And this is the way that we got all the Italian mobsters and all this stuff. And essentially, when you can't prove one particular specific crime, the RICO Act can kind of help you by saying you knowingly and willingly participated in this group that purpose was to commit these crimes, if that sort of makes sense. And that's really, really basic, and I'm not a lawyer. But a lot of rap artists, right, form their own record labels, and they bring it right. And Young Thug was no different, okay? And his record label is called Young Slime Life. And the state of Georgia is alleging that Young Slime Life was not a record label, but was a highly functional and murderous gang operating out of Atlanta. And that the record label was a sham, was a front for this gang. Jeffrey Williams, if you do not know, is Young Thug, one of the most famous, biggest superstars in the world. Okay. And so he did that, the state of Georgia is saying, that he created this one of the biggest superstars in the whole world. And what we mean by like, okay, I mean that he has all of the money, okay, all of the girls and boys. He had an album cover where he dressed up in a beautiful dress, okay, which he got a lot of like sort of like flack for, and people were calling him the David Bowie of this, whatever. And then he clarified on the next album that he was only wearing that because he had a stick on and the dress covered it up. So he had a gun in him right there, and the whatever. So one of the ways that they're going to prove that he's in a gang and he's an international superstar just to cover up for his gang activities. Because if you have a choice of occupations, right? And one of them is, would you like to be one of the 20 most famous musicians and artists in the world, or a gang leader? Most people go for gang leader. Okay, so there's all my biases and my jokes about it and whatever. This is day 12. That's what's going on. Do you know Young Thug, Taylor, at least? Am I overstating his fame?
No, you're not. He was one of the biggest rappers alive. But I do want to interject and say, like, I've always thought, and I still think, this trial is not going to go Young Thug's way. I just don't think that. And I still think, yeah.
I think you're right, unless, well, I'm just going to give you day 12. And this, by the way, will end up being the longest, I mean, it's already going to reach that point, but the longest criminal trial, I believe, in Georgia history. And yeah, it's going to be crazy. Day 12 of the Young Thug trial, Stillwell is in the courtroom after his stabbing delayed the proceedings. A mall security guard testifies that Young Thug told him in 2015 that he would shoot him in the face. An actual mall cop that Young Thug mouthed off to in 2015 led the prosecutor's case. No charges were filed. An incident report instead. Young Thug was on a hoverboard. In Jeffrey Williams' trial for his life, the prosecution opens up with a mall security guard. In 2015, Young Thug was on a hoverboard in a mall with his boys clowning around and told the mall cop he was going to shoot him in the face. He did not. No charges were filed. An incident report. The state of Georgia wants you to, well, I've already mentioned that. You already know. Okay. Next to testify is the co-founder of YSL, this gang that they built a multi-million-dollar music label around. This gang that sells weed in Cleveland Park. An elementary school friend from the same street, it is an avenue, it is a park, it is an elementary school, testifies he was in a gang with Jeffrey Williams. First, the ROC gang, which stands for Raised on Cleveland. The group of friends played basketball at Cleveland Avenue Park and sometimes even gambled on the games and shot dice and drank liquor and sometimes smoked weed. The prosecutor interrupts him to ask if he sold drugs. Not at the time, quote, not at the time I didn't sell no drugs because I was initially arrested in 2015 for possession of marijuana. We were young. We didn't know nobody with a marijuana farm, end quote. They don't give these kids a goddamn chance. They gave them records for shit we laugh about at parties right from the jump. So behind, they can start to catch up and you can push them back down easy every time. The state of Georgia versus Jeffrey Williams is from the same moral authority, mind, and spirit that arrests a kid for possession of marijuana. She asks him to name the members of ROC crew, and he says he doesn't know all the members. And she says to name the ones he does know. And he starts with the neighbor and talks about the street they grew up on and is answering her in geographic order based on the houses. But she interrupts him sternly and will not let him finish, admonishing him for talking about his street and who he grew up with when she is asking about members of Rock Crew. But he says that is Rock Crew. But she can't have that because then it looks like if you're a kid growing up playing basketball and throwing dice and betting and sometimes even drinking liquor, but you're black and poor in East Atlanta in America in this millennium that can't fucking let go of the last to save its sorry ass and end this war and these wars and this sham of a trial, then they call it a gang and a criminal enterprise. When in my neighborhood in Pofftown, North Carolina, it was just boys being boys, fucking hanging out and getting into some shit. All right, let's move to is that it? No, I said something else. Oh yeah, here we go. They made the man they'd arrested. This is the guy they arrested, okay? He's getting his, I think actually I'll say it up here in a minute. Yeah, okay. They made the man they arrested as a child for having weed at a basketball court at the park on Cleveland Avenue where they all grew up, show the jury on the live stream and the world gang signs for other gangs he didn't claim to belong to but knew of. The prosecution is sadistic. They perform this ceremony after he admits on stand that claiming certain gangs or throwing up their signs while not being a member can get you hurt or killed. He has explained he's gotten his CDL license and is working hard the way they want them to, but it isn't enough. The judge asks him whether anyone in the courtroom was in ROC gang with him, and he said no. No one in the courtroom was raised on Cleveland Avenue, so there were no members of ROC crew in the courtroom. Jeffrey Williams was in the courtroom along with his co-defendants. None of them were born and raised on Cleveland Avenue with the gentleman testifying. He admits Jeffrey Williams went to the club with them, with the ROC crew from time to time. Sorry, I lost my thing because I hit the wrong button. And it's almost over, but this is ridiculous. All right. He admits Jeffrey Williams went to the club with him and his friends. He admits Quay went to the club with him. He doesn't know his last name. He admits Shannon Stillwell. At one point, she fucking asks him how he knows Jeffrey Williams' last name, but not Quay's last name. This is Young Thug. Again, just like repeating Young Thug, one of the most famous people. Okay. He admits Jeffrey Williams. He admits Quay went to the club with him. He doesn't know his last name. He admits Shannon Stillwell went to the club with him and his childhood friends that were born and raised on Cleveland Avenue. Jeffrey who, the prosecutor asked. Williams, he answers, before moving on to the next name of a person in the courtroom that he had been out clubbing with. They make him read his plea agreement aloud to the jury like a child. He testifies to being a founder of YSL, Young Slime Life, and testifies that YSL is a gang under their definition. Quote, and who were the other founding members? Walter Murphy and Jeffrey Williams. From the plea, which she forced him to read out loud, he says, at age 15, they changed the name YSL from Young Slime Life to Young Successful Living when Jeffrey Williams signed a record contract. They moved all of their focus on making it in the music industry. YSL is a registered trademark of Jeffrey Williams. It's his record label. So anyway, that's it. That's our day 12. We had two people testify, the mall cop and this buddy who smokes weed at the basketball court.
Derek, I'm glad you're following this trial because I am not, and it sounds absolutely nuts. I love that the way that you've gotten at like the like double-sidedness of a lot of this, how like something can have one connotation within the confines of the courtroom and an entirely different connotation on the streets, right? And how, like, as you said yourself, like the sadism of it, like to force this guy to do a thing on the stand that could get him killed in the streets, and just like the attempt to take, oh, I have a piece of tissue stuck in my face, and just the attempt to take like language and actions that have a certain set of connotations and a certain set of meanings within one world and force it into another and make it insidious and make it nasty and make it criminal, right? The I just one second. I was absolutely convinced there was something hanging from my nose. I could hear it like tickling up inside my nose. So anyway,
Yeah, I mean, the problem with following anything in real time is, listen, some of the things that YSL is going to get into, they're not going to work with some of the stuff I just read, right? Like, I mean, the likelihood that these guys, did some shit. I mean, Jeffrey Williams' brother was killed in gang violence. His father was killed in gang violence. Like, I think it would be a little foolish to not, but like, it's about the language of it, right? Like, when they go over all the things that dude's doing at the park, like, I swear to God, like, you know what I mean? Like, they're talking about 13-year-old kid. Like, that's not gang activity. Like, that's what fucking 13-year-old kids in the park are fucking doing. Do you know what I mean? Like, and the fact that you can kind of write from then, fuck them. And then, like, when you get 15 and, like, sign a record contract, and it's like, oh, okay, so let's like stop selling weed and jacking cars, because there's probably a whole lot more money in being like an international superstar. Jeffrey Williams is 34. So then 20 years later, like, you know what I mean? And unless he really is I mean, I guess there's a chance that he's like really a psychopathic, like sadistic, like for real Don or Kingpin or whatever. I mean, he certainly raps as if he is and says he is. I believe that it's, autofiction.
right. And how many rappers do, right? How it just I don't know. I do think it's really, like you said, I'm not following the trial close enough to make any presumptions about his guilt or innocence. But it is interesting to me the way that everything that has happened in his life now has to be reframed within the context of the trial, within the narrative that the prosecution wants to tell about him, including stuff that, like you said, would be considered fairly benign under different circumstances. Anyway, it's really interesting shit, Derek. You need to keep us in the loop about it as you can, because yeah, it's really interesting stuff. All right, I think that does it for the night. As usual, I'm going to leave the Zoom room open for a while so people can hang out. But in terms of the reading portion of Misery Loves Company, I think that's it. So thank you to everyone who read tonight. Oh no, I closed my list. Now I have to do it from memory. Thank you, Derek. Thank you, Rudy. Thank you, Jan, warged into Rudy. Thank you, John. Thank you, Kat, for publishing Rudy's poem. Thank you. Geez, who am I forgetting? Thank you, Josh. He's not here, so I don't need to say his name. And anyone I forgot, thank you to everyone who read tonight. It's been another great one. Great way to start off 2024. Let's hope it is not as miserable and demoralizing as 2023. Anyway, thank you, everyone. It's been great. We do this every Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. Anyone is welcome to come and join us and listen. Anyone is welcome to come and share their work. We tweet out the Zoom link right before we begin from our Twitter account @MiseryTourism, all one word. And that's fucking it. Thanks, guys. Good night.